Hello everyone and welcome to my first full flight video in X-Plane 11. Today we are taking the X-Craft Embraer 145 for a flight from Pittsburgh International Airport to Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington DC. The flight time is approximately 44 minutes, so not a very long flight. If you don't already own the Embraer 145, I highly recommend you pick it up on the xplane.org store. It's a very fun and simple airplane to fly and is ideal for people who love doing short-haul flights or just people who are new to flight sim. This aircraft will definitely be a nice addition to your virtual hangar, so I'll put a link into the description below. Now without further ado, let's jump into the flight deck. So the first thing we want to do is we want to turn on the two main batteries and the avionics masters. We can arm the emergency exit lights, fuel pumps can stay where they are, navigation light can go on. We can shut him up as well. Everything else is good. Fasten seatbelt sign and smoking sign can come on. Windshield heats can come on. And we can turn on the packs. Now we are going to come to the navigation display and we are going to remove all of these unnecessary information. And we're going to go down to the FMC and initialize. And now we can fill in the flight plan. So we are going from Pittsburgh to Ronald Reagan National Airport, which is KDCA. And our flight number is, let me check real quick. We are AA4231, like so. We can execute that. Then we are going to go to arrivals and departures. We're departing from runway 14 on the Pittsburgh 5 departure. And we can go back to the flight plan. We can delete this waypoint. And now we can fill in the rest of the route. It's a very short route for this flight. Only 2 waypoints. And from Buco we're going to fly the arrival. So we're flying the Freedom 5 arrival for runway 19 from Buco for the RNAV runway 19 from Fergie. We can check if there are any discontinuities. There was one. And the rest of the flight plan looks good, so we can also check if everything is correct. Everything looks good. Now that that's done, we can turn on the APU, and you do that by waiting until the valve is open at the end of the aircraft, and then you hold it for 3 seconds, like so. And we can turn on the APU bleed, and you will see that the APU is starting, or has started rather. It's a very quick APU in this aircraft. So our cruising altitude is flight level 290, so we can set that there. And we can also put that in the pressurization panel, like so. That's very important. So now we are going to fill up the aircraft with fuel and passengers. According to SimBrief, we need approximately 5,700 pounds of fuel. And we should have a total weight of 43,000 pounds approximately. So let's see what 30 passengers gives us. It seems like we need a bit more. Maybe 37 passengers should do it. There we go. So we are going to use a D-rated thrust setting, and we're going to set the trim to 5 up. That was the trim warning. So that's set as well. So let's have a listen to the ATIS report to find out what our QNH is.
Pittsburgh INTL information Quebec. 1200 Zulu weather. Wind 200 at 6, visibility 10. Sky conditions 5,500 scattered, 12,000 scattered, 25,000 broken, temperature 18, dew point 18. Altimeter 2996. Arriving
So the
runway
QNH is
14,
219 and
departing
906.
runways 28 right, 28 center, 14. Advise on initial contact you have Quebec.
So they are departing from runway 14, which is exactly the runway we put into the FMC. The only thing that we still have to do is brief this departure, and after that we will be ready to go. This here is the Pittsburgh 5 departure. We are departing from runway 14, so our initial heading is going to be 145 degrees until leaving 1700 feet, sorry. And then we will go direct to our first waypoint. Our top altitude for this departure is 5,000 feet, and our transition altitude is 18,000 feet because we're in the United States. And that's everything I can say about this departure. It's a very simple one. Now we are ready to call the pushback truck and push back from the gate.
Ground to cockpit. Please show me where you want to go.
So we want to go somewhere over here. That looks fine.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Okay, the tow is on its way, so we can now close the doors and remove the ground power unit. I'm also going to turn on the beacon lights to let everyone know we are about to start our engines. And the fuel pumps can now come on as well.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Winching strap and adapter in position. Release parking brake when ready to start pushback.
Parking brake released. I'm going to remove the engine covers and turn off the packs, so we have enough bleed air to start the engines. And the pushback should start momentarily.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
We have received our clearance to start the engines. To do so, you simply hold the starter button into the start position for 5 seconds. Then you will see the exhaust temperature and N1 start to rise. There we go, that's one good engine. Let's make it two.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
The pushback truck has done its job, so I
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
will close the engine covers, turn on the engine bleeds and packs. Hydraulics can go to auto, and the APU can go off. The flaps can go to position 9, and the transponder can go to TARA. I will also do a quick flight control check. So full left, check. Full right, checked. Full back, checked. Full forward, checked. Right rudder
Tow is
checked.
disconnected and bypass
Left
pin
rudder
has been
checked.
removed. Hand signal on the right. We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Flight controls are free and correct. Now we just need to wait for the pushback truck to show us our gear pin, and then we are ready to go. There it is. So taxi light can go on, parking brake released, and we can advance the throttles a bit. Remember, we're in a terminal area, so we can't go above 15 knots.
Takeoff okay.
To get to runway 14, we're going to make a right on V1, then pass the de-icing pad, straight ahead, and then we'll make a right turn onto November. And then at November 5, we will hold short of runway 14. This here is taxiway Victor 1, so we'll make a right turn here. We have reached the holding point for runway 14. So the landing lights can go on, taxi light can go off, strobe light can go on, and I've notified the passengers. Let's check for a last time that everything is okay. Everything looks good, so we are ready to go. As you can see, we have a slight crosswind from the right side. Clear right and clear left. Always make sure you check that there's no incoming traffic, even though you're offline. And runway 14 is identified. So here we go, guys. Advance the throttles to about 40% and wait for them to stabilize. There we go. Takeoff thrust is set. Airspeed's alive.
rotate. V2.
Positive rate, gear up. Now we just follow the flight directors. We can now retract the flaps. Autopilot is coming on. And I'm gonna reduce the thrust to climb power. And since we're already above 1700 feet, we can go direct to our first waypoint. There we go, now the airplane is tracking direct to my Golf Whiskey. Nose light can come off since the nose wheel is now inside the airplane. At 250 knots I'm going to engage speed mode. Like so.
High speed.
Okay, so I got distracted for a
speed.
moment by a notification from
High
Simlink,
speed.
and
High
because I was
speed.
distracted the airplane went above 250
High
knots, but that's not a big problem. It will probably overspeed once again when I advance the thrust. Yeah, see?
High speed.
Not a big deal.
High speed. High speed. High speed.
There we go. We can zoom out a bit on the navigation display. We have passed 10,000 feet, and that means we can turn off the rest of the landing lights. It also eliminates the speed restriction of 250 knots. And we will now accelerate to 275 knots, which is the climb speed for this aircraft. because this is such a short flight, we practically immediately have to descend again as soon as we reach our cruising level. So now seems like a good time to brief the arrival into Washington DC. Like I said earlier on in the video, we are flying the Freedom 5 arrival into Washington DC from Bucco, which is the waypoint that we're flying towards now. And as you can see, there are a lot of altitude and speed restrictions, and I'm not gonna go over all of them because that's just for the sake of time, that's not a good idea. The most important one is the one at Freedom, where we need to be at 8,000 feet and at 240 knots. From there we will go to Stand, Together, and then Fergie. And at Fergie we need to be at 3,000 feet for the RNAV approach into runway 19. And again, the transition level is flight level 180 because we're in the United States. And that's practically everything. So we can also brief the approach. So like I said, at Fergie we need to be at 3,000 feet, sorry. And then from there we are going to descend to Setok, where we need to be at 1,500 feet. And then after that we're just going to maintain a gradual descent to our minimum altitude of 478 feet above ground level. But because we're doing a visual approach, that doesn't really matter that much. And yeah, the go-round procedure. So if we should do a go-round for whatever reason, we are going to climb to 3,000 feet on the final approach track of runway 19. And then after that we're going to direct to Baden, and there we are going to stay in a holding pattern. I'm going to start the descent right about now. So I've already set the altitude restriction of flight level 220. And we need to be below flight level 260 at the next waypoint. And the altitude restriction after that is at Cork, where we need to be below flight level 230 and above flight level 200 and at 280 knots. So I've started a gradual descent using speed mode. The passenger signs can come on again. And I've also popped up the 2D displays to make it a little bit easier for me. Unlike the Boeing 737 or Airbus A320, this aircraft doesn't actually have VNAV, so we have to descend manually using speed mode or vertical speed. So it makes this aircraft a little bit more difficult, but also more rewarding to fly, in my opinion. So guys, we have now reached the waypoint Freedom and are now at 8,000 feet. And the next altitude restriction will be at Fergie, where we need to be at 3,000 feet, as I said before. So once we reach to, there we go. Now I'm going to start a gradual descent to 3,000 feet. And I'm gonna use vertical speed mode this time. And also make sure you don't exceed 250 knots, so ease the throttle a bit. After Fergie, we're going to descend to 1500 feet, which is our final altitude restriction, and then we will fly to our minimum altitude. Hopefully we'll be visual with the runway at that point, but we should be okay. And if not, I'll just adjust the weather a bit so we can actually see the river and the runway. I'm also going to deploy the flaps and landing gear a little bit earlier than usual, just because it gets kinda hectic after Fergie. One last thing that we need to do is we need to get our landing weight into the FMC so we can get the V speeds. So our landing weight is 42,500 pounds, which gives us a VREF of 129 knots. So our final approach speed will be 134 knots. So I basically did the VREF speed plus 5, which is standard procedure. And I should also set the minimum altitude now. We can now start to slow down a little bit because we are getting closer to the airport. And I will deploy the flaps momentarily. Flaps 9. We should already be visual with the runway right now, so I might have to adjust the weather if you don't see the runway in time. Now I'm going to set the final approach speed of 134 knots. And I'm going to select the next notch of flaps. We still don't have the runway in view. The nose light can come on now and the taxi light as well. And gear is coming down. Now I'm gonna increase the throttle so we don't stall this airplane. Okay, gear is down, 3 green. We're still flying through clouds. I think it's best that I take over from the aircraft now,
Autopilot.
because
Autopilot.
we should break through the clouds at any moment now. You know what, just let me adjust this weather real quick, because we can't see anything. There we go, now we can see the runway. So we're a little bit off track, but that's no problem. We are going to aim for the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, which you can see in front of us. And it's important we maintain a gradual descent. There's the runway to our right. Everything's looking good. So at that bridge we will make a right turn towards the runway. Speed is getting a bit low, so I'm gonna increase the throttle a bit.
500. Minimums.
Continue. So as you can see, we are on the glide path, which is good. Speed is okay. We are looking good.
$100. 50.
Start the flare.
10.
And we are down. Manual braking, reverse thrust is green, and we are decelerating. There we go. The reverses can be stowed again. Flaps can go up and these speed brakes can be stowed as well. So guys, welcome in Washington DC. I think it was a very nice landing, all things considered. Too bad we needed to change the weather at the last minute, but otherwise we wouldn't have seen any of the monuments or the river, which is obviously one of the things that makes this approach so interesting to fly. So it would have been even worse if we hadn't changed the weather. But yeah, it breaks the immersion a little bit. Okay, so transponder can go to the RA, and I'm gonna turn on the APU. Landing lights can go off now. The strobe lights can go off as well. And I'm gonna turn on the APU bleed. And we'll make a left turn here. Where should we park this aircraft? Left or right? I think I'm gonna go for this gate right here. We overshot it a little bit, but that's okay. There we go. Parking brake is set. The APU is running. So we can turn on the engines. Fuel pumps can go off. Hydraulics can go off. The passengers are allowed to get up from their seats. And everything is okay. We can cancel that alarm. So let's look at a couple of replays and see how we did.
500.
Minimums. Minimums.
One hundred. 50. 10.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And if you didn't, you can always leave a dislike. Let me know what flights you want to see next in my future videos. in the comment section below. There you can always ask any questions you want about my videos or just aviation in general, and I will try to answer them. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.